probably have written somewhere like 60,000 tweets in the last 5 years.
Your kids ask you what you did today at work. How do you explain this?
If he sees my computer, he'll pretend to type on there and say, I'm writing tweets.
How do you plan through your content? Do you just scroll and post all day, every day?
Yeah. So, and that's what I tell like our neighbors, that I just write tweets. They don't understand how that's a job.
LinkedIn, the feed is just so boring usually. In my experience, even my worst performing tweets will just pop off on LinkedIn because people are like, you're the funniest person ever walked the face of the planet. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Dads in Tech. This is episode 32. Every time I say the episode number, I feel like another week has gone by, and that's because it has. Today, we are joined by none other than Charlie Light. Usually, there's going to be Troy Munson on the other hand, but he is very sick today. So for the first time in Two Dads in Tech history, it is just Daniel joined by a guest, Charlie Light. And why is Charlie Light joining us today, you might ask? Well, we're going to find out. Charlie's a great friend and somewhat an influence to me on Twitter and elsewhere on the internet. He is the myth behind many of your favorite meme accounts, including, I think, most recently, Chase Passive Income, although I think you might be up to some other projects I'm not even privy to. And so today, we're just going to get into the grit of what it looks like to make money by creating meme accounts and kind of what the behind the scenes look like in Charlie's life as a dad, entrepreneur, meme lord, fill in the blank. And so thanks for joining today, Charlie. It's super good to have you.
Yeah, Daniel, thanks for having me. Honored to be the...
Absolutely.
I can be the second dad. I can be the second dad in tech today.
You are the two. We are still two dads in tech today. So Troy is the lone survivor, just getting better from a cold. But it's fun. So right before this episode, Charlie and I officially met for the first time. We have talked on Twitter DMs primarily for at least a year now, maybe longer. We've done a little bit of collaboration together, but primarily I'm just laughing at his tweets, posts now they're called. He has a lot of really good Twitter meme accounts. And, most recently I mentioned Chase Passive Income. And so I'd love to kind of start off there to ask you, how do you fall into this extremely niche universe of creating meme accounts that you keep just doing extremely successfully with? Tell the audience about that.
Yeah, it just started really randomly. I had always been a fan of reading Twitter accounts. I always followed parody accounts back before, the term even really existed. So I tried my hand at one during COVID and it took off. That was the John W. Rich account. That was the absolute perfect time to get into this because everyone was going online to talk about the stock market, to talk about business. So I grew that one pretty quickly and realized it could be an actual business. So yeah, I just, grew that one and decided, hey, I'm going to try and get some clients. Ended up getting a few clients kind of a few months into it and realizing hey, this can actually be a full-time business. I can just post on Twitter for my job. And I think I have developed good instincts for what will work on Twitter, but that's basically because of, I don't know how many hours reading Twitter, writing tweets. I calculated it the other day. I probably have written somewhere like 60,000 tweets in the last 5 years.
That's insane.
So it's just a lot of experimentation and figuring out what formats work. And I feel like now I kind of I just know what'll work. After practicing for so long.
So I have a follow-up question to that because I feel like there's a theme. So it's John W. Rich, and then you had Hunter Cold Calls, and then now you have Chase Passive Income, and I think there's a few other random ones in there. I'm probably missing some, but they all have a very similar theme, type of tweets, but then totally different personalities. And so I'm wondering, when does a new brand or a new personality launch? How does the spinoff start?
Yeah, I don't have an exact answer for that. I've kind of wondered that myself because I have all these ideas for other accounts I could do, but I don't necessarily want to cannibalize the ones I've already made. And I definitely don't want people to think, oh, he's just ripping off his same jokes again. It's getting kind of boring. I would say at least the last two accounts, Chase Passive Income and Hunter, are really based off of online gurus. And it's funny because a lot of the online gurus actually do have, like, they don't specialize in one thing. So like Grant Cardone, for example, you could say both accounts are inspired by him because Hunter's a sales account. A lot of the jokes are based off stuff that Grant Cardone has done. And same with the Chase Passive Income, because Grant Cardone also talks about investing and he talks about real estate and all sorts of other things he's got going on. So I feel like it works in a way because every big online guru, when they become big enough, they become an expert in literally everything. So
Yeah,
the
it's
accounts
true.
can kind of, Chase can start out with just like, at first I was just talking about buying businesses, but that didn't have the mass appeal of like vending machines and other passive income schemes. But what's nice is you can kind of just, like a real guru, I became, the meme accounts become an expert in everything at a certain time
Yeah.
or at a certain point in, having a large enough audience. But I don't necessarily have an answer for when I launch a new one. I don't think I really have like some formula for, okay, now I'm going to launch a marketing one. I do in the back of my mind have a list of topics I want to make meme accounts for. All of them are topics that I'm interested in. So like obviously I'm interested in finance and sales and investing. And I mean, the other topics would be marketing, maybe even a specific like ghostwriter or content parody account. That might be a little too niche, but I think, a crypto one would be funny, but the main constraint is just to make a really good account, you have to be totally obsessed with it. So I think
Yes.
for Chase, I've tweeted or posted something like 4,000 times in 7
Oh my
months.
gosh.
So there's not a lot of room to, make 5 of these accounts at one time.
Right.
I was going to look up what 4,000 or how many times it is per day. It's something like 20 or so per day, every single day. But
I remember you and I
yeah, I
talked
don't know.
something about that.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember a conversation we had a few months ago, like how many tweets it takes before one really pops off. And it was, I can't remember the number you shared, but it was something to the effect of like 30 to 40 tweets a day for sometimes months, where you're like, some of them get a little bit of traction, but then eventually, and you saw this with Chase Passive Income like a few weeks ago. What did you go from like 40,000 to 80,000 followers in the last month or something?
Yeah. So on on June 30th, I had like 41,000 followers and now it's at
Crazy.
92,000 or
And like
93,000.
every day I see a new tweet that has hundreds of thousands, if not over a million impressions from Chase. It's just
Yeah.
insane.
And there's basically 3 stages of growth so far. It was like the very first month or so was just grind it out, like post a ton. A lot of them got like 2 likes, but I was kind of having slow, steady growth. Like I'd gain a few followers a day. Then after that first month, like once I got to maybe 1,000 followers or so, it just became a little bit easier. Like I knew that if I put a good post out, it would get good reach. And then I kind of slowly went from 1,000 followers to, like 40,000 in 5 months.
Mhm.
So about, 5 or 10,000 a month. And then this last like 2 weeks basically have been a massive, more than double the audience. And it's kind of a combination of getting to a point where I'm big enough that if I have some good tweets, they'll get really large reach. And I've also just found what the audience likes with that account.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
tell you're a dad, right? How many kids do you
Yeah. Yeah.
have?
2.
2 kids. Your kids ask you what you did today at work. Like, how do you explain this to your kids? What do they think you
Yeah.
do?
So my oldest son, who's almost 3. So like I'll go off to work. He knows, I drive somewhere for work. He'll pretend to do the same. Like he'll get in his toy car and say, okay, I'm going to work. Bye guys. And we ask, what
I
are you
love
going to
that.
do today? And he says, I'm going to write some tweets. So he basically says dad writes tweets. And so he'll like, if he sees my computer, he'll pretend to type on there and say, I'm writing tweets.
I love that.
I
Do you
mean, he
have
doesn't
like
know
a
what Twitter
co-working
is.
space or do you rent an office somewhere or
Yeah, I just rented an office. It's not ready yet, but I'm going to move into it whenever
that's cool.
whenever they're ready in a couple weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've kind of so I have this office. I'm at home. It's definitely
sure.
a lot harder to work from home with. So I've an almost 3-year-old and then a year and a half.
I'm in the same exact boat. 3 and 1
Okay.
on my side. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely hard to like have, um, to stay focused throughout the day if I'm always working from home.
Yeah.
So I found, it's just easier to go somewhere. I can do my work more quickly
Yeah.
and be more focused. But
I
yeah,
thought about doing the same.
yeah. So, and that's what I tell like our neighbors that I just write tweets. Most of them don't really, um, they don't really, I don't know. They don't understand how that's a
Sure.
job.
They're like, "Oh,
So
okay, so
I'm in
your
the sub,
wife's the breadwinner." Like, they probably don't
right?
even get it, like
Yeah. So like we're in the suburbs of Minneapolis, so it's really not a
Sure.
startup. Like if I was in Austin, I'm sure most of the neighbors would get that. Then if they'd be like, "Oh, awesome!" Like whoever. But yeah, most of the people in my neighborhood like work for United Healthcare or some corporation like that, so they just have no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
That's so funny.
But yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that. How do you it seems like with Chase, and I'm sure with Hunter and all your other meme accounts in the past, you got to a point where you knew a tweet was gonna pop off. Like, how do you plan through your content? Do you just scroll and post all day, every day, or do you have, like, a rhyme to the madness?
no, I don't have much of a system. Most of them I kind of think of in the moment and I just post it. I guess sometimes maybe I'll think of 3 or 4 at once and I'll schedule them out for like a day or so. But yeah, a lot of them, I, I, I mean, most of them, I really, I don't think of my best tweets while I'm on my computer. I think I wrote about this a little bit on my personal account, but I had a tweet about golf or post about golf go viral, like basically a picture of a golf hole saying, you're 50 yards to the pin, 80 yards to the house behind it. You own the window replacement company. What
I
club are you
saw that
hitting?
one.
So that one, like I just thought of while I was playing golf.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more creative when I am not sitting at my computer saying, "Hey, I need to come up with 10 tweets right now."
Right.
But yeah, it's basically all spontaneous, and it's I think a byproduct of like always thinking about these things. Like half my posts are seeing something in real life, and then thinking, "Oh, that would be a good tweet." Like, what if it was a more ridiculous situation? Like I was talking to a guy who runs some meme pages about how half the reason I take my kids to the arcade that's in our town is basically to come up with like child gambling related tweets because
That's funny.
they're like the arcade has like Minecraft swap machines basically and other stuff like that. So I always get good
Yeah.
ideas for posts there.
That's very funny. How is this a business? I know you make a little bit of money from Twitter, like, directly, but, like, what's the hope with some of these meme accounts with, like, the actual funnel for your revenue?
Yeah, so I would say like the hope is that Chase himself could be a sustainable media business. I mean, right now it's more like side income. So my last payout from X was like $850.
Mhm.
So, that's like basically 15 or 1600 a month, which is pretty good.
Yep.
But at the same
Okay.
time, that was like the absolute highest one I've gotten
Yeah.
so far. And then I can do some sponsored posts. So I've done a few. I could do more of those. So I think an account like Chase, if you really tried to maximize the advertising partnerships, you could maybe do $5,000 or $10,000 a month with the account. And I've kind of held off. Like I don't necessarily want to maximize the amount of ads I'm doing because I also don't want people
Yeah.
to think the account is uncool if I'm constantly doing
Right.
ads. But the way I actually make money now is basically consulting and doing content for founders or brands. So kind of the business model is a bunch of people love the Chase account. A small percentage of them follow my actual account where I post my actual insights and advice. And then they say, "Hey, I want to hire you for this project." Um, and that's been the big moneymaker. And that's how the last 5 years or so, that's how I've made money originally from like the John W. Rich one. And we could talk about this too along the kids theme is, before kids, I would just take on every single client I could.
Yeah.
And I was doing something like in 2022, I would do 40 to 45,000 a month in revenue, just do all the client work
Just
myself.
from
Uh,
ghostwriting and Twitter stuff?
yeah, that would be almost like 90% of it was or no, like 80% was ghostwriting and then probably
Yeah.
20% was advertising, but that was kind of also so that was early 2022. That was one of the that was still a great time for advertising revenue. So like
So you're talking
companies that,
600 a year from writing.
yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
great. I mean,
Um,
it's phenomenal.
yeah. And so it definitely became a little bit harder to pull that model off with kids. I mean, still
Yeah.
possible. And I've also gotten better at like managing clients or at least picking the right clients as well. That's a huge part of ghostwriting, I feel like, is picking a client you can actually get good results for and you can actually write well for naturally without, there's certain clients like who are just outside my area of expertise. So I'm going to have a really difficult time writing good stuff for them.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like, I don't know if this is true, but I was following your personal account when Chase started. And I feel like you've been a lot more personal and giving a lot more insights with Chase than you did with your prior accounts. Maybe it's just because I didn't follow you as closely, but I didn't see as many insights from you on your personal about Hunter, about John W. Rich. But then I'm like pretty tuned in to what you say about Chase because I'm like, well, I want to replicate this with like the different meme accounts and just in my own like ghostwriting. And honestly, I just have fun on Twitter. And so I like to know like, okay, what makes Twitter tick? And you've like hacked the bomb like over and over and over again. And so is that true or was I just following you at different times in different places?
No, that's probably true because I think, yeah, part of that would be that I don't own John and Hunter anymore. So they're with the company that I sold my agency to. So it's kind of a little tricky. Like I couldn't necessarily give away all the secrets because they're supposed to be benefiting from it. So that's also one reason it's kind of nice to be like a free agent. I don't necessarily have to worry about,
Yeah.
you know, it, I mean, it really helps me to have an account like Chase where I can do whatever I want on it and then I can freely write about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of agency people get stuck in this loop of, oh, we're doing all this great agency work, but I can't share any of it publicly because obviously the client doesn't want
They're
me.
all clients. Yeah.
Right. Like they don't want me posting the analytics. They don't want me posting the strategies I came up with, even though they're good. So that was kind of a little workaround I found at the beginning of if I just have my parody accounts, even if I make $0 from it, it's totally worth it because it gives me this real time case study I can write about. And that's what I've encouraged other writers who ask me for advice. I tell them, you should have something you write in public that can basically be your case study or your testimonial, even if it's something that you own. And it probably has to be something you own because, yeah, just clients don't want you openly sharing the strategies and the results you've gotten for them, depending
Yeah.
on what type of content or what type of agency you are. But yeah, usually clients don't want like that.
Yeah. How do you mentioned earlier you're into like investing, real estate, some of that like where did all that come from? I mean, how did you start becoming like the de facto expert in let's talk finance? I mean, obviously with John W. Rich specifically, a lot of your memes were like, oh, like it's hilarious, but also you clearly know what you're talking about with finance and all the stuff you talked about. So tell me kind of where all that came from.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically the well, I studied finance and accounting in college. So I'd always followed the stock market. Um, Definitely was not an expert, but I knew enough to like actually talk about the stock market. I had just naturally followed, especially in 2020 and 2021, there was so much going on with the stock market that I
Yeah.
was following it closely. Like I feel like on Twitter, there was every month or two, there was some story that would dominate. And, most of your memes would just be about that. So like I was following, Zoom extremely closely for a while and all those types of companies. And then right after that was like GameStop and AMC. So that was kind of the perfect time to be talking about stocks. I don't know if I'd ever will top that month. Well, I guess I could with Chase now, but I think with the November 2020 or just January 2021, that's when GameStop and AMC happened. I forget. I wish I could have the actual numbers, but I think with the John Rich one, it was like went from like 30,000 followers to like 110,000 followers or something like
That's
that in that
nuts.
month.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other big stock market related accounts basically doubled
Really.
around that time just because so many people were coming from Reddit to talk about stocks.
Yeah. Where do you see Instagram and like TikTok and even LinkedIn fit into the overall content strategy of what you're doing?
I think, okay, so I don't know if I could speak to TikTok. Like, you probably have way more insights there. I don't think I've
A
ever
little
had
bit.
more than like 200 followers on TikTok.
I don't have many on TikTok either.
Okay.
I'm more of a passive consumer there, but I didn't know if you had anything there.
Okay. So, I mean, it seems like with any platform, you just really have to learn like the nuances and the culture of each platform. So, like, I've gotten decent at Instagram. I've built a few of my accounts up to like, 10 or 12,000 followers. At first, I would just post like screenshots of my tweets. That's kind of the lazy way to do it. And some of them would do really well. With the Chase account, it's been nice because that account's grown from like 1,000 followers to 4,000 followers in the last week or so.
Wow.
But I've kind of been learning like what are the Instagram specific rules, and it seems like that my formula has been find or create some stupid image that represents a tweet, and then put the screenshot of the tweet in the front of the image, kind of transparent, so it looks like an inspirational graphic or something. But I feel like you really do need to learn like all the specific culture of each platform.
Yeah.
You can't just take what works on Twitter and then just start reposting on LinkedIn
Yeah.
without at least experimenting, figuring out like what kinds of things you can and can't say. Like, for example, Twitter is just way more crass than LinkedIn. So,
Yes.
like, I posted from Chase yesterday a thing about I did not install a vending machine at any of Jeffrey Epstein's properties. I can't imagine trying to make that kind of joke on LinkedIn. I just don't know if that would. I guess you could, and some accounts do it, but like that's just something that's okay to, joke around with on Twitter, but on LinkedIn, I
Yes.
just don't think. Yeah. And there's a lot more examples like that where, you know, Twitter
Yeah.
has a specific humor that won't
Yes.
necessarily work on LinkedIn.
If anyone's listening and does not already follow Chase Passive Income, it's at Chase Down Leads on X. It is the best account on Twitter, in my opinion, right now. It's like every single day. It's just so funny. And the reason I ask about the other platforms, in my opinion, I'm let's call him LinkedIn creator. I mean, I hate even calling myself that because it makes me sound like such a dweeb, but I am. And I think memes do so well on LinkedIn, almost like what Facebook used to be when you were like a creator on Instagram. And it's like people they don't expect it. And they think everything that's even a little bit funny is so funny. So I feel like, in my experience, even my worst performing tweets will just pop off on LinkedIn because people are like, you're the funniest person ever walked the face of the planet. But it's because LinkedIn the feed is just so boring usually. So things like a little bit funny are just like die hard hilarious. So like, I almost imagine like, what if Chase Passive Income made a LinkedIn account? Have you considered that?
Yeah, I've tried. So actually, I have, from my personal account, I have posted like one or two of my Chase posts and like explained, how I came up with it. And those have always done extremely well, even though I don't necessarily have an audience. Yeah. So I don't know. Actually, I don't even know enough about LinkedIn. I know that I can't really create like a personal account for him
I don't
because you
know.
have to
Yeah,
be a real person.
you'd probably eventually get kicked off if you did. But like, I don't know. I've seen some people do yeah, I don't know. There's verification processes, but like if your personal is posting, there's opportunity somewhere.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of good shit posting accounts on LinkedIn, but all the ones I know
Yeah.
of, it is a real person using their real identity.
Yeah, sure. Like Chris
Um,
Back and, another Cohen, me. Just kidding. I'm not
right,
actually
exactly.
kidding.
Yeah. So no, and even just posting like the screenshots of Chase and, like that usually does well because people might not even read the caption and they just like the meme, but
Yeah.
they
No,
can. Yeah.
there's something there. I mean, even like it's interesting because Twitter pays you, but LinkedIn doesn't. But I mean, I make so much more from LinkedIn than I do from Twitter just because like even like brand partnerships and stuff, like obviously sponsored posts on Twitter do well if you want to like sell out your account a bunch, but there's a lot more creative ways in my experience to do those on LinkedIn. And I don't know, like the engagement on LinkedIn is very strong right now. So I'll get, several 100,000 impressions on sponsored posts even sometimes, and I only have 20,000 followers there. So it's like, brands love it, and a lot of brands don't know how to do it. So I think Twitter is similar. Like there aren't a ton of brands doing Twitter well, but then you think like Wendy's and I don't know, GameStop obviously did it for a little bit, and it's interesting. I don't know, Chase. I feel like Chase could do so much outside of Twitter if you went all the way down the rabbit hole and made it into a real like media company, like you were describing. Be interesting.
Yeah, and we can get into the idea for that. I think I've been
Yeah,
thinking of, making a media company of these various parody accounts. So right now, Chase could be the face of it just because he's so well known. I could do, a parody account in like a smaller niche, do the humor for that niche, and then have
Chet
some sort of,
Newsletter Guy. Should
yeah,
we open that can of worms?
yeah,
Never,
yeah.
never before. Are you Chet Newsletter Guy?
Yep, I am.
Oh,
So
it's so
that's like
funny.
one
So
experiment where that's
it
a
is.
specific one.
It is.
Where
Charlie
like,
and I launched Chet Newsletter Guy last year, and it's just something we have so much fun doing. I've confused so many people. I could tell a lot of stories there, but I think there's so many spinoffs. Chet could do so well. It'd be so funny if like Matt McGarry heard me say this because of one of the tweets at him. You know what? I'll just tell the story. Whatever. We're here. We got a few more minutes left. I was at a newsletter conference in Austin, and Matt McGarry sat down next to me and said, "Dude, do you know this Chet Newsletter Guy? Because he just tweeted at me while I was on stage, and he wrote like this like really weird, like slightly romantic tweet." And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "Oh, who? Chat?" He's like, "No, Chet." I was like, "Oh, I've never heard of him." And then I tweeted again. It's just me. I am Chet Newsletter Guy tweeting at him. It's just so funny. But the 5 listeners we have at this episode will now know that I'm Chet Newsletter Guy, and we'll see if it gets to Matt McGarry. But dude, I'm like, there's just so many little micro instances of me like catching the bug of creating little meme accounts. And I'm like, dude, what you've done, like everyone wants to do what you've done, but you just keep doing it so well. It's so impressive.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So creating the accounts is spot. I think that's what I have to figure out is how worth it is it to create different accounts, knowing that it does take a ton of time to really build it up into like a known brand. I feel like I can do it for maybe 2 or 3 at a time, potentially, depending on what the topic is. But at the same time, I always debate like, okay, should I, start more of those? What's the benefit of doing like a fresh new one versus just putting more time into Chase and,
Yeah.
getting another 10,000 followers for him? And I mean, there's probably some sort of balance there, but yeah, I think I have been working on, okay, what's like the next account and how does it fit into a bigger vision of an actual media business?
How do you like strike a balance with being a present dad and husband and then the almost hyper nowness of being effective on Twitter? Like, do you put your phone down and just say that's enough for today, or are you pretty much always kind of tuned into what's happening?
It's like off and on, depending on what we're doing. So yeah, I would say one thing is that I had to drop in like I basically when the first year of my oldest son's life is trying to run accounts that are extremely tuned into the news. So like with the John W. Rich one, that was definitely a lot more based off of, whatever the newest headline is, make a meme about it immediately. I've kind of given that game up a little bit. Like I'm not going to be the account that's most on top of the news cycle. And I tried not working with clients that are like that, where, oh, if something big happens, we need to publish something immediately. So like with Chase, none of it is really timely. I mean, some of it is, but I'm never like the first one to hop on a trend.
Yeah.
Well, or at least like a trend based on a news headline. So yeah,
Right.
that would be the one thing. Cause I am definitely checking Twitter or writing stuff at weird hours, but at the same
Yeah.
time, there's times I can't be and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would also say at least with like, I think there's always a small, if I'm building up an account like Chase, there's always a few weeks or a few months where I have to really go hard at growing it. But at least with the account now, I've kind of established, the presence. I have 90,000 followers. I don't need to work as hard to keep the growth going. Like I don't need to post as often. If I do 3 good posts a day, I'll probably still gain a ton of followers. And
Yeah.
so at a certain point, yeah, I need to tell myself like back off. I don't need to be I don't need to be tweeting 30 times a day for Chase.
When you tell your
Sometimes I
wife that
do.
you're launching a new account, does she like prep herself like, oh no, this is going to be 2 months of grind to get this off the
Oh,
ground?
no, it's honestly not like that because I feel like we're still pretty lucky that I could just do it from my phone at home. I like compared to some other, like our friends or neighbors who them being busy at work involves going to the office for 14 hours a day or going on a business trip to Asia for 2 weeks. Like it's really not that bad. It's really not like that. Or yeah, it's not like I'm a doctor and like have to go be gone for a full day to work on.
Yeah.
I don't even know. But yeah, no, it's really not that bad. I think that's a nice thing about this. It's such a high leverage activity that I can
Mhm.
do it from my phone. Even like a super busy day for me isn't, it's not 12 hours of working.
Yeah.
It's probably I've had to remind myself with creative stuff like this, like on the 10th or 11th hour, I'm not really going to be that effective.
Right.
I feel like I do better when I have like, maybe 5 or 6 hours of really focused, dedicated work, then maybe a couple hours of just catching up on admin things or whatever, and then having some sort of break to reset. Cause I do feel like if I do those really long, like if I'm working all day, every day, the next day, I'm not going to be very creative, most likely, if I didn't give myself
Yeah.
some sort of break from it.
Yeah. I think there's probably a lesson there for a lot of people is, people are going 50, 60, 70, 80 hours in startups and like, how effective are you at the 60th hour, the 70th hour? Like, eventually there's a point where you're probably less effective than if you just stopped and picked it up the next day.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends on the point of your career too, because I feel like I did
Yeah.
that. I don't know how many hours I did, but when I was first starting this up, like I said, I took on every single client. And sometimes that meant I was working, till 8 or 9, or I was randomly doing something at 9 p.m. because I, forgot to do it and I had to do it that
Mhm.
day, or I was waking up at like 6:30 to have a call with someone who's in a later time zone. But at least for me, I don't feel like my career always has to be like that. And I think, yeah, with kids, like you just have to take a little bit more of a break because then it was hard to transition from, before kids, I was working a lot more and then I would get the break. But like now you don't necessarily get a real break. It's like, now I'm done with work. Just the second job begins of,
Yeah.
you
Or the
know,
first job starts again. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
You never get a break. There was a Slack conversation going on at one point where it's like, yeah, there's vacation and like there's a lot of opportunities to like get away from work. But for parents, it's actually just like still work. Like no matter where you are or what you're doing, you're working either as a parent or as a coworker, employee. So it's a it's a balance. It's hard to strike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to give advice on it too, because it's like you just have to figure out your own style, both with work and parenting. And it's also just different at each age group too. Like at least now, I'm glad now that they're at the age where um, I feel like I could work in the same room that they're playing, and they're not
Yeah.
like 6 months ago that would have been impossible. At least with the younger one who was 1 at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you're not getting a more than 2 minute break from them
Right.
reading something, basically. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I'm in the same boat trying to figure out, how much my kids can be in the same room versus not. It changes every month too. So, last question. I know we're coming up on time here. If someone wants to start a meme account, what should they do? What's the first step to take?
That's a good question. I would say I feel like you just have to experiment a lot. Like, don't worry about the strategy. Don't, I don't just start posting. And like, you probably
Mhm.
have to post 100 times to get your first couple of posts to do well. And I'll say, like, with the Chase account, that wasn't even originally Chase passive income. Originally, it was so like a year ago, I started that account as, hey, I'll start up a new meme account. My first iteration of it was called the Finance Thruple. And then
Oh,
it was a
really?
Yeah, so I photoshopped like 3 headshots together, 2 women
Wait,
and 1
I
man
saw that.
1 man. Yeah, yeah. And so that got like a couple hundred followers, but
Oh,
it never really broke out like I thought, and I kind of ran out of material because like,
yep.
I mean, there's probably more ways to be creative about it, but I just ran out of material. Like, okay, the joke is that, you could basically increase your income and savings rate by 50% by adding a second person or a, second woman to your relationship. But yeah, so I ran out of
So
material.
funny.
I I think it was something else briefly. I don't even remember because I might have made some like marketing alpha male account, which I do still want to do. I think there's a massive appetite for like the alpha male marketing guru guy. Like it's funny to me in a few different ways that the alpha male like workout stuff is so prevalent,
Yes.
especially for jobs that just require you to like type at your computer. Um, like it's funny, there's actually I feel like there's a big subsection of like ghostwriters who are really into like working out and supplements and which is cool, but it's just funny, like contrast of,
Yeah, the juxtaposition
those
is like, why?
right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so even with the Chase account, like I didn't really, that was not my first idea. And if you look back at some of the earliest tweets, a lot of them, I kind of abandoned certain jokes that just didn't really pan out. So like I would joke a lot
Yeah.
about like buying a small business with like insane leverage. And I still joke about that a
Mhm.
little bit, but some of the earlier jokes were more specifically about like SBA loans. And they're
Yeah.
just,
Didn't land
yeah,
quite as well. Well,
right,
cool, man.
exactly.
Where do people find you? How do they get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about work or pick your brain or pay you to, work for them?
Yeah, just on X at Charlie W. Rich.
Charlie W. Rich. Well, man, it's been a pleasure. This is episode 32 of Two Dads in Tech. If you're listening, please go ahead and subscribe to us at Two Dads in Tech. We're at Two Dads in Tech on Twitter, at Instagram, TikTok, Two Dads in Tech on YouTube. This will be live every Wednesday, and so we're looking forward to just continuing the conversation. Thanks again, Charlie. Any parting words for the audience here?
Yeah, I was just thinking that you and I, if we abandoned our families and then lived together in an apartment in Austin, we could probably increase our MRR by a
I
lot.
think so. I'll
So
chat
let me
with my
know
wife
if you
and
want
see if she's good with like a 18 to 24 month stint with Charlie. Hey,
Yeah.
I have a guy I just am dying to be a roommates with. That would be good. Charlie is awesome. I knew this was going to be a great episode. It did not disappoint. And we're looking forward to the next time. Thanks for joining Two Dads in
Yeah.
Tech. Talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks,
Yeah,
Daniel.
bye-bye.